One question that I often get is why the United States has so many lawyers per capita relative to other advanced economy countries, including relatively similar countries, English-speaking countries, and also why they are able to charge that much. And it's truly a unique situation. The United States does in fact have a huge amount of attorneys per capita, as you can see from this table here. It's about 12 times higher than that of Japan. And remember, an attorney in the United States is not the same thing as in other countries where some people become attorneys with just a bachelor's degree. In the United States, you have to do your bachelor's degree, and then based on the strength of your bachelor's degree performance and transcript, that's one of the components, along with another standardized test, the LSAT, that helps you get into law school to earn a Juris Doctor degree, which is a 3-year degree that is officially a doctoral degree. So it does take 7 years to become an attorney in the United States, but the income prospects are also much higher than in other countries. It's also the shortest doctoral degree, so a Juris Doctor JD degree does in fact qualify a lawyer to be a university professor and even be tenured. Now, university professorships are not very numerous, but you can get that with a Juris Doctor degree, so that is the shortest type of doctoral degree. Now, when you consider many factors about why so many attorneys make so much money, if you are not an American, you may be shocked to know that someone can just pursue 4 years of a bachelor's degree and 3 years of a Juris Doctor degree, and then get on multiple career paths that can enable you to earn, say, $1 million a year, or become very powerful in government, become a legislator, or run for other political high office. You can also be a prosecutor or a judge. So even the positions that don't pay that much have a lot of power behind them. Now consider why this is. The US is the world's reserve currency, and therefore the United States can spend much more than it takes in income tax to a greater degree than any other country in the world. And that is why the US federal government is a $6.5 trillion entity. If it were its own economy, it would still be the third largest in the world. It is much larger than the GDP of Japan or Germany or India. Because of being the world's reserve currency, and because of being a very large economy that has the major headquarters of corporations in so many industries here, especially in the technology industry, and because of the nature of our legal code and regulatory code, it is easy for attorneys, lawyers, to make endless amounts of money by complexifying things, and there is no counterforce for simplification. In theory, there should be a department of the government where there are lawyers, legislators, that have only one job, which is to simplify regulation, obstruct unnecessary complexifications, and remove outdated regulations. But there is no such official department, unfortunately. And as a result, a lot of things in the United States are needlessly complicated to the detriment of broader society, but just because a few attorneys created that innovation. I can give you countless examples, but here is one. Retirement plans and pensions. In the United States, you have traditional IRAs, Roth IRAs, 401k plans, 403b plans, 457 plans, Coverdell plans, which are specifically for education, healthcare savings accounts, which are specifically to be spent on healthcare, and all this complexity and non-interlocking contribution limits and so forth. All of this is needlessly complicated because some lawyer invented each, and there are lawyers that specialize in the laws associated with each. So very artificially created complexity that benefits no one other than those who thrive in that complexity. Now, in a more logical society, we would just have one thing. We could call it US pension, and it's backed by the Federal Reserve. And every US citizen has a certain lifetime contribution limit where they can contribute tax-free and where it can grow tax-free. Let's say if you were born in 1975, the contribution limit is $1 million. And it increases, let's say, 7% a year from that point onward. And therefore, by the time you get to people who are born in their 80s, the contribution limit is much higher. By the 90s, it's much higher still. It keeps compounding. But that is consistent with the exponential rate of change. And there is no annual contribution limit. There's just a lifetime contribution limit of 1 million if you're born in 1975, and then, like I said, indexed higher for later and lower for born earlier. That would be so much simpler than worrying about 403b and 457a and Coverdell and healthcare savings account and Roth IRA versus traditional IRA and SEP IRA and solo 401k and all of these other things that are very weird. And the fact that it has a lifetime contribution amount and not an annual contribution amount makes it not just simpler, but the entire category of people who are not wealthy, who are normally low income, but they occasionally get one big windfall, an inheritance or an old property that went up a lot that they sold. There are a lot of people who normally earn just $50,000 a year, but then they occasionally get 1 million. This caters to that tier of people. They should not be treated as wealthy because one year was very high. That was the only year of their life that had unusually high income, and the rest of their life will not. So this is more benign in terms of accommodating those working class people who just happen to get one windfall, but in any other year they remain working class. But it would be so simple. It could be backed by the Federal Reserve. When the Federal Reserve prints money for quantitative easing, if it just boosted balances in these pension accounts that everybody has, that would be a far more granular and diffuse stimulus than what they do now, which is only to buy treasuries and mortgage-backed securities. So a well-governed country would have something simple like that, easy to understand, and that could cater to everyone. Not many people are going to max out their lifetime contribution benefit early. That is very, very infrequent. But it's also not a high enough contribution amount to give a huge giveaway to the ultra-wealthy. They are just not able to shield so much in terms of taxes based on that contribution limit. So it caters to everything versus all of these complicated plans, which are more than a dozen in number and extremely confusing and exist only to create complexity that enables lawyers to hide more fees into 401k administration and Roth IRA administration and other guidelines and so forth. Artificially created complexity that makes the US economy less competitive. And other countries that do the same thing would in fact become very uncompetitive much faster, but the US, being the largest economy as well as the world reserve currency, can absorb a lot more of this deliberate inefficiency and graft until it can't, and that point has not arrived yet. Now, a final point is there a role for artificial intelligence in this? You would think that there is, because anything that is artificially complicated is something that AI should be able to handle considerably more easily. AI should also be able to recommend when an unnecessary and deliberate complexification is going to have negative effects to the broader society, much greater than what the inventor of that new complexity is going to secure. So it will flag instances of where a small group of lawyers are going to make X by making society inefficient to the extent of losing 10X, right? The whole purpose of an advanced economy is to keep things like that to a bare minimum. Dysfunctional, corrupt countries are where those types of things are common, and I would hope the United States can avoid devolving to that level. But you can't have this force of so many attorneys who are able to profit by making things complicated and earn a huge income. Again, if you're a foreigner, you'd be surprised that someone who just invents some new type of retirement plan that is only slightly different from what already exists can still make $1 million a year for the rest of their life just by inventing that and getting that institutionally accepted at the major financial services firms, so that it's part of the retirement offerings that major corporations give to their employees or is offered independently through Fidelity, etc. Inventing something like that can make you wealthy and is an easier path to wealth than inventing some new software program or semiconductor chip. That's a sad state of affairs and something people in the future will find funny about the United States of our era, but for the time being, that is what it is. Thank you very much for watching.